How's it going, everybody? For today's beer review, we're going to be having a 100 subscriber special. This will be Green Flash's Cellar 3 Silva Stout, a stout aged in bourbon barrels. So we have reached 100 subscribers on my beer review channel, which is really cool. It's my first 100 subscribers on here, obviously. So I wanted to do a really special beer review to commemorate the event. Also, I just really wanted to try this beer because all the beer websites like Beer Advocate and such are really just kind of blowing up about this beer. What it is a bourbon barrel Imperial Stout from Green Flash Brewery, and it's called their Cellar 3. It's a 2015 release, batch number 1. It comes in at 10.1% alcohol by volume, so it's really high up there, and you'll definitely be feeling it after drinking this entire huge bottle, like I'm about to do. 45 IBUs, so very low on the bitterness. It's a limited reserve, and this is something a lot of people have been having a really tough time getting their hands on. I was really fortunate just to walk in our store and see that they had a couple of bottles left, so I count myself lucky. Alright, there's a lot of reading on the back, but I'll go through it quickly here. It says, 2015 Batch 1 Silva Stout. Our double stout is sculpted into a barrel-aged gem, brewed with golden naked oats, dark crystal, and roasted malts. Brewed in April 2013. That's right. Our double stout ages in oak bourbon barrels and artfully emerges as Silva Stout. This midnight black ale features elegant notes of oak, vanilla, dark chocolate, coffee, roasted barley, and ripe cherry. That sounds amazing. Round and delicately balanced in body, each sip envelops the palate with its impressively complex craft composition. Aged for 18 months in American oak bourbon barrels. 10 gallons per barrel of fresh in the blend. And it was bottled on February 16th of 2015. So this was sitting in a bourbon barrel for, what's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, a year and a half. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's the longest age I've seen on a bourbon barrel stout yet. Cellar 3, where craft evolves into artistry. Discover Cellar 3, where Green Flash brewers express their artistic genius. Each beer is a masterpiece to be shared, celebrated, and savored. Elevate your craft beer experience with our limited reserve collection. Bottle conditioned. Store upright in a dark place between 50 to 55 degrees. So, that's all the reading on here. I'm going to be drinking this beer out of my Duvel snifter glass. It is the best glass for assessing the really big beers. So without further ado, I'm going to get the cork out of this bottle, and we're going to see what this is like. Lots of smoke coming out, as you can see. Still smoke coming out. That's crazy. Alrighty, straight out, the color is extremely dark brown to almost pitch black straight out of the bottle. I'm going to give this a pretty aggressive pour. It has a quite high head potential, but the bubbles are also popping rapidly, so the head retention is quite low. Alrighty. So it formed up an easy 2 fingers of extremely dark tan to light colored head. There's no need of holding this one to the light because it's pitch black. You can't see through it at all. Like I said, the bubbles are popping pretty quickly, so I imagine the head's not going to stick around for too terribly long. As far as smell goes, oh man, wow. There is so much going on in this smell. I'm getting wine. Wine is very predominant in this, but there's other stuff too. I'm getting lots of wine, black cherry, plum, fig, brown, lots of brown sugar, vanilla, almost to a creme brulee, malt, lots of fig and currant and raisin, tobacco, leather, bourbon, butterscotch. Man, I mean, and those aren't slight or small flavors. Those are big smells. This is a super complex smell on this beer. I mean, it's If I didn't know any better, I might even think that's like a really high quality Belgian quad because of how all over the place it is. Man. The big notes though are black cherry wine and brown sugar. There's also caramel. Just all over the place, extremely decadent smelling. I cannot wait to taste this one. So thanks for 100 subscribers, and let's give it a taste. Oh man. That's extremely good. Up front, a lot of black cherry and wine. On the exhale, a ton of brown sugar, tobacco, bourbon. Oddly enough, though, it's not super high on the malt bill. I think this could easily pass for a quad. Very boozy. I'm not going to lie to you, it's quite boozy, but it's good. Lots of like, it's like dates. That's the best word for this, because it's kind of like candied prunes and raisins and brown sugar. It's like dates. This is really, really tasty stuff. As far as the flavor development goes, immediately you're hit with like black cherry wine, malt, brown sugar, dates, prunes, and then it ends on a slightly bitter and slightly sweet malty finish. This is absolutely delicious. There is room for improvement, though. I'm not going to give this a perfect 100 in the representation, and there's a couple of reasons for that. My big thing is not letting hype get in the way of things. I don't care how hyped up your beer is. If it's not, I'm going to tell the truth about it. And now I'm not going to sit here and scold this beer, because this is really, really tasty stuff, but it's not perfect as a stout, and there's a few reasons for that. Number one is the body. This has a kind of thin, medium body for a beer that's been sitting in a bourbon barrel for 18 years. Yeah, right, 18 months. And packaging it up in this special thing and having this presentation and it being a double stout, it should have a very thick and creamy mouthfeel and body to it. I think this is a little bit too thin. It needs to be thicker. That's just my opinion. Also, they need to add more malts to this beer. It doesn't really taste that much like a stout. It tastes like a really fine bourbon barrel aged Belgian quad is what it tastes like. And in fact, if you look back a few videos, I did a review of oh god, I can't remember the brewery's name, but it was Quandary, River North. I can't remember it, but I did a barrel aged quad from them called Quandary. This tastes almost identical to that beer. If this was a Belgian quad, I would give it a perfect 100 as far as style representation goes. But as a stout goes, they're not really footing the malt bill quite as much as they should be. And then that whole cherry and wine thing is really kind of taken over. It doesn't quite taste like a stout. If I was doing this blindfolded, I wouldn't know that this was a stout. I really wouldn't. I would think it was a quad. So it's not to say it tastes bad. If it was a quad, it would be a perfect 100. So that should tell you something. But as it does stand, as far as a style score goes, or the representation, I would give it a solid A. I call this about a 95 out of 100 in the style, because it's not a perfect representation of a stout. There are, I wouldn't know it unless, you know, I was I knew what it was. If I was blindfolded, I wouldn't know. As far as my own personal score goes, it's a perfect 100 because it is still very tasty. So I'm giving it the 95 on representation purely out of technicality, but that is a technical score just for all of those out there who care. My advice to you is, I mean, even if you haven't had many Belgian quads and you're just looking for a barrel-aged stout, I think you're going to like this regardless. But if you're looking for a really tasty Belgian quad, you should try this beer because it kind of tastes like one. If you're looking for a barrel-aged stout, you should still try this because it's really good. It's just really high on that kind of wine and cherry bill, and it's not a super malty stout. But it is really delicious. I do think it deserves most of the hype that precedes it. The price tag is a little bit steep. It was $17.99. I think this is more like a $14 to $15 beer, but you know, 18 months, that's a lot of rent this beer has to pay to be produced. So that has been my review of Green Flash's Cellar 3 Silva Stout. Hope you guys enjoyed my beer review as always, and stay tuned for the next one.